Multitasking. It's kind of hard until you learn an interesting concept about multitasking. I'm bringing this up because I recently took a course just to develop myself a little bit more, learn some new things. And this wasn't really a main piece of the course, but we got into the idea of multitasking. And the teacher of this course brought forth some interesting statistics and ideas about multitasking, and it kind of confirmed some of my own thoughts that I've come to recently about the idea of multitasking. It's something that we hear a lot in our culture, especially the business world. And it is a little cold out this morning. I think it's a nice crisp 42 or 43 degrees right now. But if you're struggling with multitasking and finding it hard to accomplish and do well, you might just want to stop multitasking. Did you know that multitasking increases your stress levels? It increases your heart rate in a negative way, and it actually increases your blood pressure. So why would we want to increase our stress levels and our blood pressure by doing something like multitasking in an effort to streamline our work processes and be more efficient and all that kind of stuff? So basically, the bottom line is multitasking is linked directly to anxiety and depression. Aren't people already feeling enough anxiety and depression based on what's happening in the world right now? I think so. I just wanted to talk through this a little bit because I'm a recovering multitasker. I got all into the multitasking over the years and trying to do many things at once, and especially with my work, since I work on the computer so often, just being in this place where I have a lot of screens open quite often, a lot of tabs, and I would always have this hesitancy to take tabs down while I'm working on one project in order to work on the next project, because I'm thinking to myself, well, I don't want to, lose what I have already put up, and it felt like I was wasting time if I would then have to go back and redo the tabs and all that kind of stuff. So what I've learned, though, is that keeping all these screens up is very damaging to the brain and actually causes, like I said, anxiety and depression in us. And that's the last thing that I want to have happen in my life, and I don't want that to happen in your life. So if you're multitasking, I just want to bring forth these ideas so that you can maybe look at this a little bit differently if you are a multitasker, and just stop doing it and focus in on one thing at a time. This even goes back to something myself, people I see in my family, my friends, and I'm sure you do this too, and I'm sure you know people who do this. Multitasking is even sitting in front of the television, watching a show while we have our tablet or our phone right in front of us. That's multitasking. You're trying to do more than one thing at a time. And I want you to think about this seriously. It's actually damaging your brain. It's causing harm to your brain. In fact, some of the studies that have looked at multitasking and how it affects us have linked it to this long-term stress condition that actually causes permanent cognitive impairment. Yikes. Probably not something we want to be doing then, is it? But it's so easy to fall into, isn't it? Just something like sitting on the couch, watching a show, and the commercial comes on or something. And even when you watch something like Netflix with no commercials, I find myself wanting to open up my phone as I'm watching some show and looking up something on the internet. It's amazing how it hooks into your brain and you start wanting to do all these different things at the same time. Multitasking is also driving your car and texting, right? So what I thought I would do on this video is bring up the dangers of multitasking. So now you know those. Now let me kind of hop into some solutions to this. What are some things that we can do to stop multitasking and get more focused? Because what these studies are finding is that if we focus our energies on one thing at a time, it really helps. I mean, I'm multitasking right now. I'm taking a walk and making a video. But I'm talking about especially your work, multitasking with work, where you might be sitting at the computer, got all these tabs up, pinging back and forth, pings on your phone, distracting you, like when you get a text and you're focused on doing something with your work. It doesn't necessarily need to be computer work, any kind of work. And the phone pings and you have this tendency to grab the phone and look at it. And now you're distracted from the work you were doing and you have to get your mind reoriented into, what was I doing? Let me get back into it. And that actually wastes time. So multitasking actually does waste a lot of our time. So here are some things that we can do to avoid multitasking. So one thing that can distract us is our emails. So be careful of that, right? Where you might have your email account on your phone like I do, as well as your browser edition on your computer, on your laptop or whatever. Make a point to only open up your email, say twice a day. Open it once in the morning, take a look at it, see if there's anything urgent you got to answer. Most of our email correspondence is not urgent, but just check it in the morning and then check it again in the afternoon or evening. Just check it twice. I started to do this habit and it's helped me stay focused on the task at hand so that I'm not checking email, getting distracted by that while I'm over here trying to keep my thoughts on my work, bouncing back to something somebody said in an email and all of that. It's raising my stress levels. It's raising my blood pressure to do that. So that's number one. Number two, turn off all your alerts on your phone. I kind of mentioned it. You're working along and the ping goes off. You're off in another thought process entirely than what you were doing to begin with. And that's very dangerous to your stress levels, to your cognitive, the dangerous cognitive impairment you're making for yourself. And then clean your workspace. I'm bothering the birds here. I'm not too happy with me right now. Clean your workspace. Get all that clutter off your desk, off where you work, because it's a kind of a multitasking thing. I've fallen into this trap where I'm at my desk working, doing something that's pretty important for my work. And then if my space is cluttered, I'll actually get distracted by it and start almost trying to fix things up over here on the desk as I'm trying to also focus on the work. It's another multitasking mistake. Raises your stress levels, raises your blood pressure. Not a fun place to be in. So just declutter it in one focused time frame. And then from that point forward, you can focus in on your work without multitasking. Here's a big one that's really helped me, which is to time block my sessions of work. And what I mean by that, and there's an actual term for this, and I forget what it is at the moment, but you put a timer on, sit down at, say, top of the hour, and say, I'm going to work for 20 to 45 minutes. If you're new to this, I would suggest probably doing it initially for just 20 minutes. Give it a shot. You could even do it for 10 minutes and just see what happens. But I have a specific task I need to accomplish right here, and I'm just going to do it for 10 minutes. And then I'm going to get up and maybe do a 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 minute walk around the house or around your workspace at work, whatever it might be. And then I'll come back either to it and continue, or I'll pick up a different task, something else I need to get done. I started off with like 20-minute blocks, but now I've gotten to the point where I feel pretty good and comfortable and focused mentally on about 45 minutes at a time. So I sit down and say, okay, I've got 45 minutes. I'm going to work on this. No pings, no distractions, not thinking about anything else. And I'm going to get this one thing done. And now if it's a project with many steps that I can't get done in 45 minutes, that's okay. The whole point is to work on it for those 45 minutes with focused effort. And what I find is a lot of times a lot more gets done because I am so focused. Then I take a 15-minute break and I work from home. So I might walk around the house a little bit, maybe walk down the street and come back, but just take 15 minutes to relieve my mind of that project, of that focused work. And at the top of the next hour, I sit down for the next piece of the puzzle, the next project. It could be something totally unrelated to the first one, but now I'm focused on that for 45 minutes. And I work in that kind of hour breaks or hour blocks. And that really has helped me avoid the multitask distraction of the brain. So that one's a big one to me. I think that'll really help you with your overall stress levels, your brain health, your ability to focus in and not get distracted. By the way, you can do this with your kids as well if you happen to have children or grandchildren. You know, one of the big travesties I find in our society right now is what they now call screen time. And so many children are being raised by a screen. And I would encourage you to use this process that I'm talking about for us as adults with your children. Because what I'm seeing with a lot of kids is they have screens put in front of them. And if you sit down and actually watch what your kids are watching, especially on social media right now, like TikTok, for example. Now, TikTok can be good. I see a lot of people using TikTok, for example, for their businesses and getting a lot of good results. But I'm just talking about kids here for a second. We wonder why our attention spans nowadays are so short, right? How come nobody can pay attention for more than a few seconds? Well, sit down and watch it's on TikTok. It's also on YouTube, these YouTube shorts that are coming from TikTok and things like that. Watch how fast the action is. Watch how quickly everything goes by. It's very frantic just by its very nature. And your kids are sitting there watching that for hours, depending on the kid and who's kind of watching them and letting them do it. Did you know there was a Netflix special? I forget the name of it off the top of my head. It was probably 3 or 4 years ago, all about social media, the dangers of social media, the origins of social media. One thing has always stuck out in my mind after I watched that particular special, and that was they were interviewing some of the former executives at some of these social platforms. And I think the one that quoted this that has stuck in my mind came from a ex-Facebook executive. And they were just relating how when they were building these apps, all these social media platforms, all the brain research that went into it and how it's actually designed to be addictive. It's designed to keep us on it. And the big quote that stuck out to me was this executive said, "I know what this social media is doing to our brains. I will not let my own children be on social media." Let that sink in for a second. When we talk about social media, being distracted, stress levels, all related back to the idea of multitasking, because that's what's happening really to our brains on the social media platforms and to our children, is it's multitasking. It's going from idea to idea to idea that's completely unrelated, but it's just pinging inside your mind, inside your child's mind. What is that doing to their stress levels overall? What is it doing to their blood pressure? What is it doing to their long-term cognitive ability? So maybe you can just, take these ideas that I've given you for yourself to de-stress a little bit around multitasking, pinging from thought to thought, task to task, project to project. Not only for yourself to kind of get yourself into more of a calmer existence, calmer life, if that's something you're seeking, like I have been, but maybe you can pass it on to your kids and your grandkids as well around the whole social media pinging from thought to thought, non-related topic to non-related topic, and help them with that too. So I hope this helps. Just wanted to give you some of my thoughts on this as I encountered the actual scientific disadvantage to all of this. I kind of felt it already inside, being a little more frantic and stressed out, trying to multitask, but now I've definitely learned that not something you want to be doing. And hope it helps you and you take something from this and go use it in your life.